Hey, welcome to episode 68 of Scar Bearers. I'm Chris D.T. Gordon. It is a blessing of multitudes to have you here with me today. Also with me in a technological sense are Nate and Britton Barron. If you want them to work their magic on your projects as well, you can reach out to them at Nate Barron. Well, folks, as you are listening to this, we are in the middle of summer. And I know you don't want to think about it, but school is coming around. It's coming around the mountain when she comes. And we know that kids not only need academic help, but they need that resilience that to know that they can get through hard times. And I know that the attitude of gratitude or tag can help them with that. So if you are interested in having me speak to your students and learning about how I gained my own kind of perseverance to go for greatness, please reach out to me at linktr.ee/Chris DT Gordon, or you can email me at chrisdtgordon@gmail.com. Well, today I'm joined by my new friend, Ron Horton, and his lovely wife, Dana. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Great,
Doing good. How
thank
about you?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. Now, Ron, you and I are both speakers. I speak, of course, on my experience in the hospital, and I also try to throw in some levity in there. But I know that you speak on a much more serious topic. And instead of trying to draw some humorous connection to it, I'm just going to go ahead and let you start telling your story.
Okay. And it starts out kind of deep, but with some of the things that I use to help me bounce back, it does get kind of light. So it started when I was 6 years old, living in Norristown, Pennsylvania. It was my sister, my parents, we were living at my grandmother's house. My parents were trying to work out their differences. Hadn't seen my dad for a couple of days, and I was outside just playing, and he drove up and he got out of his car. He had a beautiful orange Camaro, and he walked up to me, and I noticed that he had tears coming down his eyes. But when you're 6 years old, you really don't pay attention to that. I was just happy to see him. And he asked me, he said, "Where's your mom, boy?" And I said, "Inside." And he grabbed my hand and we walked inside together. My mom, the people in the house, my sister, of course, was in the house. She was in the dining room, sitting next to my step grandfather. She was on the floor playing. He was sitting at the table. My grandmother was in the kitchen, just to kind of lay the scene. And as we walked in, there's stairs that immediately lead up to the second floor. And so my mom must have heard his car coming because she was already standing at the top of the stairs when we walked in. They started talking. And, just like a typical 6-year-old, your mind wanders elsewhere as they're having adult chit chat. And my mother yelled out, "Ronald, no." So normally when my mom yells my name like that, it's because I'm doing something I wasn't supposed to do. But this time, when I looked up at her, I noticed that she wasn't yelling at me. She was yelling at him. My father's name was also named Ronald. As I looked up, I saw her coming down the steps, and that's when I heard the first shot ring out. He shot my mother. She made it down to the bottom of the steps where they struggled briefly before she collapsed to the floor at my feet, at my father's feet. My step grandfather, Pearl, who was sitting in the dining room, also heard the shot. He came running. He made it into the living room before my father shot him through the eye, and he collapsed over. Fell on top of a glass table and shattered that to pieces. My grandmother, she was in the kitchen. She also heard the gunshot and she came running. He shot at her, but luckily he missed. She ran down into the basement. The basement's connected to the house next door, which was her sister's house, and she escaped that way. So at that point, it was just me and my sister, and my father left. So you can imagine, I'm 6 years old. She's 4 years old. We're standing there. My mother is laying at my feet. I can tell she was still alive because I can hear her groaning in pain. My sister, when she heard the shots, hid under the table, hid under the dining room table, and she had come out after he left. And between us was Pearl, our step grandfather, still laying there with that bullet wound to his head, just pouring blood out of his head. So for that moment, it was just us two, little kids amongst all that carnage. And then my father came back. And again, he was crying. But this time, when I looked at his face, it wasn't a face of sadness. It was a face of confusion, anger, rage. And he shot my mother 3 more times. And then he pointed the gun at me, at my face, and he pulled the trigger. But luckily for me, the gun was empty.
Mm.
So I ran from his side. I ran over to my sister. I pushed her behind the sofa and I covered her and I just closed my eyes and waited. And that was the last time I saw him alive. He ran down the street. He left. He ran down the street, called his mother from a payphone. No one knows what was said. She took that conversation with her to her grave. And as the cops surrounded him, he took his own life. Family members came and escorted me and my sister out of the house. And as we were leaving, my mom was laying there. She wasn't moving. Her eyes were still open, looking up. And my sister asked her, "Mommy, are you okay?" And of course, she didn't answer. Family members rushed her to the hospital, and she was pronounced dead. And Pearl, he actually lived. The one guy got shot in the head. He actually lived for a couple of years and held on, and he eventually succumbed to his wounds and died after a couple of years.
Wow.
So just that right there for a 6-year-old is a lot to deal with. And so I talk about becoming unbroken is the title of my speech, because you're broken at that point.
Oh yeah.
So how do you become unbroken? How do you bounce back? My father had 15 brothers and sisters. My mother had 12 brothers and sisters. So the families were large families. So immediately in the aftermath of the shooting, the families were fighting with each other physically, verbally, and legally. They wanted custody of me and my sister. Eventually it went to court, and the court awarded me and my sister to my uncle, who was my dad's identical twin. So you can imagine that the man who's going to take care of me and my sister is the exact likeness of the man who killed my mother, killed himself, pointed a gun at me. And this is the exact likeness of the man who is going to take care of us now.
Wow. Okay. Did the courts ever take that in consideration? Or is that ever like verbalized that, hey, maybe this is not the guy they should be seeing every day?
That's a good question. There was rumors floating around as to why the courts did what they did. Nobody really knows for sure. Did the two brothers have a pact that if something were to happen to either one, that they were going to take care of their kids? Was the judge a friend of the family? Nobody really knows. And we were too young as kids. We were still trying to deal with the trauma of losing our parents. And then this happened. They award us to him. And to make matters worse, even one more step to that was almost immediately after being awarded custody to my uncle getting custody of us, we were moved overseas to Iran. So we were staying with my mom's side of the family, which was our support system. We were trying to deal with this as little kids, and immediately that was ripped away. So now I have no family. My parents are gone, no support system. I'm with the man who looks exactly like my father, and I'm in a foreign country away from everyone.
So what took you to Iran?
So my uncle, he worked there. He worked for the government when the Shah was still in power. So when the shooting happened and he heard about it, he was already living in Iran, working for the government. So he actually flew back over and and dealt with what was going on in the court proceedings, got custody of us, and took us back over to Iran.
Okay.
Yeah. So needless to say, that transition wasn't good. I rejected him in every way. You know, he was a likeness of my father. In my mind, as a young kid, they were one and the same.
Mhm.
And so that made it difficult for him to parent me. And of course, that discipline came along with it. I was troubled. I was the best word to describe me at the time was hard-headed. I
Mhm.
didn't want to listen to him. And I rejected him in every way. And so the punishment was often, I would say. So at that point, I was totally broken, and I had this. I had to start finding a way to become unbroken and to bounce back. And the first thing, if you look at all the studies, the first thing it says for people who are resilient, people who bounce back, is to have a strong support system. Well, I didn't have that. I didn't have that at first. So another thing that they say is mastery, the ability to be mentally strong. The ability to not just hope that things are going to be okay, but you know what? I know they're going to be okay. I control what's going to happen in my life. It's that stubborn belief. It's that strong belief. It's those people who are more resilient believe in something, whether it's a religion, spirituality, or in my case, I believe in myself. I believed in myself. Me and my uncle, he was bigger than me. He was stronger than me. But in my mind, I felt that I was mentally stronger than him and that he was not going to break me. And as weird as it seems, I mean, that's kind of a misguided thought. But as a kid, that's the way I thought.
Mhm.
This man was not going to break me any further, no matter what he did to me. And I kept that mentality for 24 years. We stayed in Iran for 3 years. When we moved back to the States, I was able to get back in touch with my family and start having a good social support system with family, friends mostly. And I talk about that as well. I started to surround myself with people who would criticize me with passion and not poison.
Mhm.
So criticizing me out of anger didn't work. I would just tune you out. But if people, if they came to me and criticized me with passion, not poison. There was one time I was moping around school, and one of my schoolmates said, "Look, you're getting us all down here. You're bringing us down. I'm not going to feel sorry for you because you're doing a good job feeling sorry for yourself." I appreciated that. I really appreciated that because it made me realize that my actions can ripple effect and impact others. And it was really, she spoke from the heart, and I really appreciate that.
That's it's quite a tell for your character as a high schooler to receive that from a friend and see it as the gift that it is.
Yes, yes,
Because a lot of kids who may have been in that similar mental state would have seen it as an affront
yeah,
and might have pulled away. So kudos for you for seeing that for what it was.
yeah, and I really did appreciate that. I could tell that she came from a genuine place. I mean, as kids can be cruel. I mean, we all know about bullying,
Mhm.
and kids can really say some really hard and tough things. But I could tell from her when it came from her, and even to this day, with the people that I surround myself with, um, I can tell when they're giving me that criticism that it comes from a caring place. The other thing to help me bounce back was just initially it was sports. I was a good enough athlete that I played football, basketball, track, um, but I wasn't a disciplined athlete. And that was my problem. I enjoyed being on the football field, on the court, and I was I just grew up with so much anger and rage, and the playing field allowed me to take that out against my opponent across from me. But anyone who's an athlete who knows that an undisciplined athlete is going to be detrimental to the team. And so that was me. I just wanted to line up and just beat up whoever was across from me. I just wanted to beat them up. That was it. I didn't care about the strategy of the game, none of that. And because of that, I didn't get a lot of playing time. Because of that, not being a disciplined athlete, the coaches really didn't pay attention to me. So I eventually quit. And I had to find a positive outlet. And all came to a head in one bad instance when I was 17 years old and my sister was 15 years old. Um, we got into a huge argument. And to this day, I can't even tell you what the argument was about. But I lifted my sister above my head and I threw her against the wall.
Mm.
And she hit the wall and she crumbled at my feet. She laid in the fetal position at my feet. And at that moment, I was that 6-year-old again. My sister is a spitting image of my mother.
Mm.
And here my sister is laying at my feet, just like my mother laid at my feet. And she wasn't moving. And I left, I went to my room, I cried like a baby. And I sat there and I thought, all that anger, I thought of that day and rage just swelled up. And I was like, how can my dad do this to someone he loved? How could he do that? And then I was like, wait a minute, how can I do that to someone I love? My sister, she is the only other living person who was there at the scene when the shooting happened. And how could I do that to her? So just like my father, I returned to the scene, but I helped her up and I apologized to her. And I haven't laid a hand on her in anger since. She's my world and she knows that. But I knew then that if I didn't have a positive physical outlet, that I could be dangerous and I could really hurt or kill someone. So I continued to work out, continue to play basketball and pick up basketball. College, I found dance not. And when people look at me, they're like, dance? and it's not like ballet or jazz. I mean, a big guy like me, you can't see me doing ballet dance or anything like not formal dance, but just dancing like no one cares or who cares who's watching type of dance.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I know what that's like.
Yes, it was, it just released those endorphins. You put on some good music and you just let go and just dance. And, you're in the moment and you feel good, and so that really helped to release a lot of the negativity. And then the last part was mindfulness. So my wife for years has been telling me to get into mindfulness, get into yoga, all that good stuff. And I would just blow her off. Oh, that's just modern day hippie stuff. I don't want to do the yoga. My knees are bad. I don't want to do that. Mindfulness, I don't need it. And, so how someone tells you something over and over again and you ignore them, but then a different person will tell you the exact same thing. And it's like a revelation, like, oh man, that's mind blowing, right?
That's parenting, I think is what it is. But
yeah.
So
I'm at work one day and my boss Nadine introduced mindfulness at work. And I said, you know what, I'll give this a try and see what it's about, and I liked it. It worked, being able to center your mind. And for me, I consider myself mentally strong anyway. And mindfulness, I found out, was another aspect of a way to be in the moment and helps you to become mentally strong. And to me, listening to that music sometimes when I'm driving home from work on a rough day, I'll put in some good music. And to me, that's mindfulness. It just takes my mind to a different place, a place where it's nice and calming and soothing. So I do have to thank my wife. She's the one who originally came up with it, even though I'm still trying to work on the yoga thing.
No, he isn't.
he's working up here. He's doing downward dogs in his frontal cortex.
Mental yoga.
Yeah.
We call it the whole mindfulness thing with his boss, his wedge salad moment. If you've ever seen Modern Family, the wedge salad moment.
No, I've never watched a full episode of Modern Family, but I think I've heard of it. I've heard of the wedge salad moment. So
the husband on Modern Family had never tried salad. His wife kept telling him how great it was. And then finally somebody else suggested the wedge salad and he had it and loved it. And it was the greatest thing ever. So yeah.
Yeah.
I use mastery, just being mentally strong. I use my social network, people with passion and not poison, and and just a good positive me and mindfulness were the things that centered me. Um, and so now I just want to be able to share those things. I'm in a place where I'm happy in my life. You know, things are calm in my life, and I think through my story, a very unique story. And I'll mention this. My wife and I, we have a good friend. His name was Irving, and this is Mental Health Month, so I really do want to share this. 2 days ago, he committed suicide.
So
He was
sorry.
by shooting himself in the head, and he was going through some hard times. And I thought about him before he did it. He was just on my mind, and I should have called him. I think that if he would have spoken to someone, or if I could have spoken to him, and kind of drilled down to that's what he was thinking about doing, I think that he wouldn't have done what he did.
Mm.
And so when I do this, it's people like him that I think of who are on the brink, or people who are helping other people to cope. Um, when I was in college, I had a friend similarly who wanted to commit suicide. He kept talking about it. Um, he had troubles with his father, something I can understand.
Mm.
And he wanted to commit suicide in his father's house. So his father would find his body. So that would be a punishment per se to his father. And we were in college, and one day he just disappeared. He just didn't show up to classes. I couldn't find him on campus. He wasn't at the fraternity house. So I called the police in his father's area where his father lived to do a welfare check to make sure that he wasn't at his father's house and he didn't actually complete the act that he said he was going to do. The police did find him at his father's house, but he was alive. They called me back and said, look, he's here. He's okay. There's nothing we can do. He's fine. So I went to his apartment and I just sat there on the steps and waited for him to come home. And about 5 a.m, he came home and he cussed me out. He was so angry. I had stopped him. I foiled his plan, all this kind of stuff. And we talked for about 3 hours. And I finally convinced him to talk to a school counselor. And I never told him about my story. Never told him about my story.
Mm.
Finally convinced him to talk to a school counselor, which he did. And she wound up putting him, he wanted to be committed for 3 days, but he said it was the best 3 days of his life. It saved his life, he said. And I remember talking to the counselor and she was like, why are you doing this? Why do you care so much? And I told her my story. And the first thing she said was, wow, you seem so normal for someone who went through that. And I get that a lot. I'm like, okay, this is a counselor saying this to me,
Yeah.
but I do get that a lot. Man, you seem so normal for someone who went through all this trauma.
Mm.
But I told her, and I decided a long time ago that, I choose to use I don't want to use my past as a excuse for failure, but as a reason to succeed. And I made that choice a long time ago. So, suicide for me, people always ask me, oh, did you ever, with your hard life, did you ever think about suicide? I didn't, I don't. One of the reasons why, because in every aspect of my life, I tried not to be like my father. So, the worst thing you can tell me is, oh, you're just like your dad. That's worse than any type of insult there is, So
Yeah.
committing suicide, no, that wasn't for me.
Really quick, Ron, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Did we ever discuss, or did you ever find out the reason why your dad did commit all those horrible things?
No, I know that my parents were separated.
Mm-hmm.
And they may have been getting ready to get a divorce. I don't know. From what I can understand, it was one of those things where, if I can't have you, no one else can. Type of deals. And it depends on who you talk to in the family. If you talk to members on my mom's side of the family, you're going to get a different, more harsher story than if you talk to the people on my dad's side of the family. oh, he loved her and he just couldn't stand to be without her. And so that's what he did. Or, oh, he was just crazy and just jealous. And that's why he did what he did.
Okay.
I don't know if Ron mentioned it, but when his father left the house, he actually went to a phone booth about a quarter of a mile away and he called his mother.
Mhm.
Yep.
And
He had
yeah,
said that, but he said that she took the conversation to her grave. She never
Yeah.
just divulged what was discussed.
Yeah. No one knows what was
nobody
said.
knows.
No
Yeah.
one knows what was said. So, I mean, that's my story. I'm hoping, my hope is that someone listens to it and says, man, if that guy can get through it, I definitely can get through some of the things that I've been through. And sometimes I've shared my story with people, and I've actually had people say that, and actually help them through their hard times. They say, man, you know what I'm going through is nothing compared to what you went through, and you seem so normal.
Yeah.
So
Some of your techniques will help them.
yeah, and then hopefully some of the techniques will help. I mean, I definitely was broken. I definitely, the shooting, broke, started the cracks. The fighting between the families broke me a little bit more. The custody to my uncle broke me a little bit more. Being moved out of the country broke me a little bit more. And at some point, I had to build myself back up and slowly become unbroken. And that's what I did.
Well, that's phenomenal. And, a testament to not only to you, but to that social support group that you have around, you had and still have around you, Ron.
Yeah.
What kinds of audiences are you looking to serve with your message?
Well, I'm looking to talk to, first and foremost, the caregivers, the people who are helping those people get through struggles, because it when you help people get through their struggles, like the nurses, the counselors, things like that, that's a burden on them as well, having to deal with that. And so I want to help those who are helping others, but I also want to help those who are in need of the help. So if there is someone who, I know high school's a hard time, you know, being a teenager, anywhere from a teenager to your 20s, it's a hard time. It's a hard world out there now.
Yeah.
Anyone who can really use that message of hope, of resilience,
And the teachers.
not to give up, definitely the teachers, definitely teachers in schools these days. You hear about mass shootings all the time, and just the aftermath of that. I think those are the people that I'm really trying to reach, just to let them know that, you don't have to go down that rabbit hole. You don't have to go down that, spiral down. You can bring yourself up. You can pull the pieces together just like I did.
Yeah. I definitely hope you do receive the opportunity to serve, because I think you can make a huge dent in that, not only the trauma that people are facing in various circumstances, but also that stigma of mental health, and getting that help, because mental health is health.
Right.
If your mind's not right, nothing else can be. No matter if you look like Superman, if your own head is full of kryptonite, you're not good to anyone.
True.
So I definitely commend you for that. Is there something that, even if in your most broken state, there's something that you were thankful for, something that you were able to latch on to that helped you stay from becoming more broken?
When I was young, it was really my sister. She, for the longest time in my mind, I mean, I looked at it in my mind, I should have been dead. If there was a extra bullet in the gun, I wouldn't be here. So for a while I lived my life reckless, but I would never go over the edge, because she was always there. If I was gone, she would be the only one left. So as a young person, it was that. But as I got older, and started to, have a wife and kids, that's what it became. My wife, she actually is my best friend. She's my soulmate. Her nickname is Hard Money because she takes crap from no one, including me. And she likes to talk a lot. She likes to talk a lot, but she's a good listener.
Mhm.
And what I really like about her is she's never tried to fix me. She's never tried to fix me. She just listens, when it's time to listen, she just listens. And so my drive now is different. My sister, she's an adult. She has her own kids of her own. I love my nieces and nephews. We're still very close. My uncle, he's still around. We're close.
Oh, wow.
We're close. Yep. He lives a couple miles from me, and we check in on him, and we're close. So now it's changed to, um, just living a more productive life, and really living for others, not necessarily me. I really live for my family. That's my driving force behind everything. So if I'm in a dark place, I know that I can go to my wife. She's always, the flower in her hair and sunshiny. She'll always bring me up. My son, there's someone that I know that I can talk to. Of course, I always have my music and my writing as well. So those are my go-tos.
It's fantastic that you have those people in your life whom you appreciate, because like I said, that support system is so important, in good times, but especially the bad times.
Yes.
Now, really quick, at what point were you able to reconcile with your uncle?
When I was around 30 years old, 30
Okay.
years old, my son was born. And I remember taking my son over to his house and him just holding my son, and looking at him. My wife was instrumental in connecting us back together. She immediately hit it off with him when she met him, and they hit it off, and they had a good relationship. But when he held my son and he looked at my son, I was like, man, that, you know, I hadn't seen that fathership type of love, I guess, in a long time. And I didn't really feel it from him because naturally he looked like my dad and I rejected him, but I saw him give it to my son. And that was the start of it. And we've been really close ever since.
Well, that's fantastic that you're able to have that closure and, close that chapter of your life and then move on. And also I love how you are giving of yourself to others so you can, help them grow and deal with their issues. So going forward, Ron, what is something you have going on, that you're working on? Any projects? I know you're looking for speaking opportunities.
Yep.
Anything else that's keeping your fires burning there?
Right now it's just that I'm just trying to get my story out there, talk to people, help whoever I can help. I have another friend who's a speaker, who started years before me, and she's doing great. And so I talk with her back and forth. And really, it's just really that I'm just trying to get it out there to see who I can help, who I can help. And that's where I'm at. I'm grounded in my family, and it's time. I feel people have been telling me for like the longest time, you need to get your story out there. You need to help people. You need to talk to people. And I kept, it's okay. I'll put it off and put it off. But now I feel it's time. I feel the time is right to do that. And here I am.
Well, I am so blessed to have you with me, you and Dana as well, with me today. And really quick, while we're talking about that, I'm going to share my screen here. And I know that unfortunately, we won't be showing this during May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, but we will. I mean, everyone goes through mental health issues all year round. And so this is NAMI.org. This is the National Alliance on mental illness. So if you are interested in checking out any of the sources they have, you can go to NAMI.org and find out all kinds of different ways that you can help people, that you can receive help yourself, you can donate. So please, if you feel the need to seek assistance, you can go that route. You can also call your local chapter of, go to your hospital and ask for mental health screeners. If you need the help, it is there, folks. So please do not hesitate. It's better to take care of this right away before something bad happens. And so please do not hesitate to check out NAMI, and also check out what Ron is doing. And so, Ron, where can people find you at?
I don't have a website yet, but I can always be reached via my email, which is my first name, Ronald.Horton, Horton, the number 1 at gmail.com.
Excellent. All right. Are you going to get that website up soon, or what do you think?
Yes, I'm working on it. So, if you want to reach out to me via email and correspond with me and keep in touch with me, as soon as I get that website up, I will definitely email you and let you know.
That sounds great. All right. Well, Ron and Dana, thank you so much for joining me. But before you go, I have one question for you. And
Sure.
Dana, you can chime in as well for yours. What is your favorite dinosaur?
It's got to be the T-Rex. And that's because my family makes fun of me when I was playing basketball. I broke my left arm.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't bend all the way. So it doesn't extend all the way. So
all right.
It got a little bend to it. So I still play basketball, but they call my arm the little T-Rex arm. So it's got to be the T-Rex.
Family, that's that. But that's that works. If you got it flaunted, I guess. So.
Yeah, you got it. Yep.
Well, Ron, it's been a pleasure talking with you, sir. And Dana, thank you for joining me as well.
Thank you for having us.
Definitely. Thank you, Chris.
Folks, again, if you want to reach out to Ron, you can find him at ronald.horton1@gmail.com. One more time, if you feel that you need some assistance with your mental health, go to NAMI.org. Check out your local hospital. Talk to a friend. Do something to help yourself. All right. Self-care is not a luxury. It is a necessity. And we need you around for us. All right, folks. If you want to reach out to me to see what I have going on in the podcast or the YouTube channel or my speaking opportunities, you can go to linktr.ee/Chris DT Gordon. If you go there and you go to the podcast or the YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, review, share, all that good stuff. And folks, thank you for joining me today. Have a great day. And remember to pass on perfection and go for greatness.